What's up, everyone? It's Tony Wiseman here with the Beale Street Bullies podcast. I got my first guest, and it's the best guest you can ever start a podcast off with. I got Coach Penny Hardaway. We're sharing stories. We're talking Tiger hoops. You don't want to miss it. Make sure you come along for the ride. Subscribe so you can hear these stories each and every week on the Beale Street Bullies podcast. Pete, what's up, man? Thanks for coming on, man. How's everything?
Man, everything's good, man. Happy to be on with you, man. Look like you got good weather where you are.
Yeah, man. I appreciate it, man. Yeah, definitely. How's everything been going with this pandemic and everything?
Man, you know, it's been weird, just like everybody else. When it first hit us, we were going to the conference tournament, and they were talking about canceling, and then all of a sudden, the night before, the NBA game was on, and the NBA was like, we're shutting it down because of what happened with the Utah Jazz. And then a couple of days later, well, one day later, we shut ourselves down, like no NCAA tournament, no conference tournaments or anything like that. And this just went straight downhill up until they decided to do the bubble for the NBA. And it started to give us some type of confidence that we would have a season. And we're playing next week in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. First game is against St. Mary's.
Oh, that's awesome, man. I want to kind of jump back a little bit, man. You know, me coming from Boston, I get to Memphis, and I knew who you were as a kid. But when I get here, the one thing I didn't know, it's crazy that I didn't know you played here. So when I got here, you know, everyone was just, you know, was always, you know, speaking on you, speaking about you. And so like kind of, what was it like growing up in Memphis? A little bit, like your upbringing, growing up in Memphis, hooping. I don't know, AU was a big thing back then or whatnot. Yeah. How did you become who you were in the high school ranks?
Well, you know, just growing up in Memphis, it's a basketball city. As you saw when you came here, the city embraced you because you came and you played great basketball for us, man, and had unbelievable years with us. And the biggest thing for me was just trying to make a name for myself. And I played AAU. I started playing AAU in the 9th grade. There were only 2 programs back then. There was a team called Memphis Idlewild. It was a church. And then there was the YMCA. So I played for Memphis Idlewild my 9th grade year, and I wasn't known. I wasn't ranked. I was kind of known around the city, but I wasn't known around the country. Then the next year, my 10th grade year, I went to the YMCA. And the YMCA kind of went more around the country and got into some bigger tournaments. And I ended up playing against a team from New York, Riverside. And they had like 5 D1 players on their team. And 3 of the guards were the starting 2 guard was going to Arizona. The starting point guard was going to Syracuse. And Adrian Archer, he's the assistant coach for Syracuse now. And then the other point guard was going to North Carolina. And I had an unbelievable tournament. It was in Hampton, Virginia, and we ended up winning the tournament. And I left that tournament. 2 weeks later, I was the #1 player in the country as a sophomore. From being unranked, not known, to going to that exposure tournament and playing really well, and just coming up in Memphis, man. After I got that #1 ranking, man, it just seemed like my confidence went through the roof, and then everybody around the country knew who I was. So it took off from there.
Was like when you got recruited, did you know off the rip, like, I'm going to Memphis, or did you kind of give everyone else a chance?
Well, you know, my heart was always with the Tigers, man, because when I was growing up, they had some really awesome teams. They had a Final Four team that had Keith Lee and Andre Turner and that group of guys, and it was amazing to watch that run for them to go all the way to the Final Four, the year that Villanova ended up beating Georgetown in the national championship game. So from that point, my heart was going to bleed blue, but I did give Arkansas had a great chance. Georgia Tech, because I wanted to play with Kenny Anderson, had a great chance. UNLV had a great chance because they had great teams back then with Larry Johnson and Greg Anthony and Stacey Augmon and those boys. So, and then Temple for a quick second and Georgetown for a quick second, but my heart was always in Memphis.
How tough was that? Like transitioning, playing, being one of the top players in the country in high school, getting to Memphis, and being from here, having so much pressure on you. From my experience, like playing with some of the guys from Memphis, it was kind of tough for some of them to handle what comes with it. You know, family and friends outside of it. So how was that for you? Like, how did you handle that?
Yeah, it was actually cool to me, man, because I felt like I was built for the moment. Just from when I was very little, I was always like, you know, hyped to play in front of my friends and family, and staying home, it took it to the next level. And every game, man, I didn't feel any pressure. I was out there being me. and I was able to be very successful, and our teams were successful as well. And it was just a lot of fun playing at home in front of the hometown, man. I'm just glad I stayed home to do that.
Jumping to the league, man. You go to the league, lottery pick, and you made a splash right off the break. Like, what was your mentality when you got drafted? When you got traded from the Warriors to Orlando? Like, what was your mindset on that plane before you got off? Like, what was you thinking?
Well, my mindset was just to dominate. You know, no matter who it was against, to get my name, to get my peers to respect me right away, to have a household name. I mean, that's where my mentality was. I wasn't going to go in and just fit in and be one of the boys. I wanted to be elite, and my mindset was on being elite the entire time I was in the league.
Man, like I said, I was a huge fan, you know, back when I was younger, watching you play with the Magic, dunking on people, crazy passes, things like that. Like, I wasn't young enough to see Magic, but, you know, see the highlights and stuff. So you were like our Magic Johnson. Like, what was that like going into arenas, fans all on top of you? I watched one back while, you know, being from Boston, watching you coming to the Garden and go to work on them. So it was like what was that like? You knowing every day, every time you step on that floor, you had to perform in order to for Penny to be Penny.
Yeah, you know, it was what I wanted. It's what I lived for, man. I lived for those moments to play against the greatest. Because when you're playing in the NBA, you're playing against the greatest in the world. And I wanted to be one of those guys that people would talk about. So every night in and night out, I knew I was going to have stiff competition. I knew I was going to have a target on my back because I was a high draft pick, and I was gaining some momentum as a name. And one thing about it back then, man, is you had a tough game dang near every night. And I just brought it, man. I just said, hey, you're going to go out here, you're going to dominate. I wanted to win the game first and foremost because I wanted to make it to the finals. And secondly, I wanted to dominate as an individual to show the guys that I was built for the game and that I wasn't backing down.
Good story for me, man. Like I said, I'm 10 years old at the time, in '95. You're playing Jordan in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. What was that like, playing against Mike in the playoffs? Him wearing your shoes, you beating him. Was there crazy shit talking? I you know, like from experience, I know you talk trash when you beat up on us for a pickup. So I know you was talking.
Yeah, well, yeah, we was talking. You know, it's just the Memphis side of me, man. I mean, obviously, I have the utmost respect for MJ, and he is the GOAT. You know, he was a guy that was so dominant for so many years. And the thing was, we were the new kids on the block, so it was pretty much our league in my mind. And Michael Jordan came back to our league. That's how I felt when he first came back. So when he came back and started playing, I knew I was going to have to face him. And when we did, I just tried to, you know, go at him every single time to kind of show the GOAT that, you know, there's new kids on the block and that we weren't going to back down. And it was fun, man, to play against him because you could tell he had the utmost respect, but he was the highest competitive guy that I had ever played against because he was relentless on defense and he was relentless on offense. He was always in attack mode on both ends of the floor.
How was that, man? Like, you know what I mean? You dominated the NBA, in all honesty, for a long time. One of the top 5 players while you were playing. You get injured, you know what I mean? Like, you start playing. Do you ever think, like, man, like, I would have probably been top 2 if things didn't go the way they went? Because for me personally, watching you play, you were definitely up there. You know, you did everything, pass, score, play defense, and, you know, just the way you played the game all the way around was crazy. So, sometimes you sit back and watch NBA now, or you watch those, you know, those NBA TV games and like, man, like I was unstoppable.
Well, you know, it is kind of twofold because, you know, when you start having injuries, when I was at the height that I was at, and you start having injuries, man, it starts to play mind games on you, man. And, you know, I tried to fight my way out of those situations and couldn't. But when you're competing, man, it's just I love the game so much. I gave my all to the game. And looking back now on what could have happened if I would have been healthy, the sky was the limit, man. Definitely could have been an MVP talk. Could have had championships. Could have been talked about as the top 5 player of all time on the rate that I was going and on the ride. I was going on a great incline of playing great basketball, and then, you know, knee injuries derailed me. But overall, yeah, I think about it sometimes, man. But I'm blessed to have played at a high level for as long as God allowed me to. And I feel like I still made an impression on the league where guys really respected my game and understood that I'm talking facts when I say if I stay healthy, then I could go down in history as being one of the top 5 best players to ever play the game.
Definitely. I agree 100%, man. So what was that like? You're done with that. You create Team Penny, and you form a dominant AU program on Nike circuit. My guys back home talk about you all the time, Todd and those guys. Like, what was that like? What was your mind frame going into the AU world, knowing what Nike was like, knowing what you could bring to the table, how you're able to get the kids that you got to kind of form the dominance that you had?
Well, obviously when I got done with the NBA, I wanted to go back and make a difference. I wanted to go back to my community, man, and just really start helping out. I had already given money, always given money financially, giving the money from since 1993. I didn't retire until 2008. So I had given money that long, and now it's time for me to come back and give the time and the money. So going back home, I was like, I want to help my friend Desmond Merriweather. If you've seen the ESPN story, the E60 story of me and him, he asked me to come and help him coach my middle school that was in my old neighborhood, Leicester Middle School. And when I did that, that made me form Team Penny, because after the season was over, or while the season was going on, we was like, man, we got to give these kids an opportunity in this area to get more exposure. That's how I got seen. I wasn't known as a 9th grader. And then I started traveling more and got exposed to some great tournaments, man, and people got a chance to see me. So I wanted to afford these kids, or the kids in Memphis, not just my neighborhood, but in the city of Memphis, an opportunity to put together a really good schedules for these kids to be seen so they can get out of the neighborhood and go dream, and then also get college scholarships to go play Division I basketball or whatever level basketball that they could play, as long as their education was paid for.
And it's crazy, too, because you think about, like how you did coaching, I coached middle school, and, you went to the high school level. Like, what was those things? Like, how did you transition to both? I know you did it out of love because, in your neighborhoods where you're from. And, so what was that like, coaching at Leicester Middle School and going to East? Like, what was those transitions like?
Yeah, it was pretty cool because I went with the group that I started with. When I first went to Leicester Middle, man, I had a very talented team. Yeah. And these guys were just hard workers, played hard-nosed, did whatever I needed them to do. And once we got that core group, which was about 7 or 8 kids, they were all going to move from Leicester Middle School to East, and we were going to follow them. It's like myself and Desmond kind of had a plan. So that's what happened. We started Team Penny. We were coaching middle school, and when the last group, which was 6th graders, graduated, then we went on to East High School. And then Alex Lomax was the last group of kids to graduate that was in the class that we started with at Leicester Middle. So we went from Leicester to East, and it was a great transition because we had the same kids together for all those years.
Definitely, because you guys dominant, man. You guys were on the top high school teams, obviously in Tennessee, but also in the country as well, winning championship after championship. When Memphis opens and the drop opens, and your name's buzzing, what kind of brought to you, like, all right, I'm ready to, take this on and kind of reroute Memphis back to relevancy, and like you've been doing?
Yeah, well, when I came home in 2008, that's when you guys were rolling. I mean, that was a year that you guys went all the way to the national championship game. Still have memories of those games because, man, it was like complete silence in the arena after that game was over with. And so at that point, I just kind of, was thinking, man, how would it be if I ever coached the University of Memphis? Never thought about it seriously, but just watching you guys play and seeing the energy that you play with and the chemistry that you play with. I never mentioned it to anyone because it was never a dream for me to be the coach. And you fast forwarded to when Josh Pastner left, I thought about it for like 30 minutes, but never told anyone.
Yeah.
When Coach Tubby Smith was about to be fired and I was approached by the job, it just seemed like from watching those last 4 or 5 years with no people in the stands, Memphis fans not really representing the way that they did when you guys were there. The program was going downward. It wasn't going upward. And that's no knock on Josh Pastner or Coach Tubby Smith. It was just the fans weren't supporting the product. I was like, man, I really could do something about this. And I think the timing is right because the last group of kids that I was supposed to be with in high school were leaving the year that I got offered the job. So the timing just worked out perfectly for it.
So that's crazy, man. Because like I said, once you got a job, I was happy as ever. Just knowing the kind of players we were gonna get, and you bring in Alex. That's one of my favorites, man. I love that kid. Yeah. Lomax, man, James, and these guys, and kind of turn around from day one. Last year, watching you guys being one of the top defensive teams in the country, being all freshmen and sophomores, and DJ going down and things like that. And like, what was your mindset from day one? You get these guys in here. I know you talk national title. How do you get these guys all on the same page? As you know, these all guys are coming in, some of the top players in the country in their position. How did you get them to buy in? And like, what was your message to those guys and your coaches from the first meeting you had?
Well, first I tried to establish the culture, and the culture was going to be, we're going to do it together. When you get a group of kids who are as talented that we got into the University of Memphis, and we had the #1 recruiting class in the country, you're bringing a lot of egos. You're bringing a lot of really good offensive players who aren't used to sharing the ball. Their respective teams are telling them to shoot the ball 20, 25, sometimes 30 times a night. So how are you going to mesh all of these attitudes and this talent together to win? And basically, we did. We talked about sacrifice. We talked about just basically, hey, if we win as a group, everybody's going to be seen. Let's do it together. And the guys bought into it, man. It wasn't easy, because nothing's ever easy. You're not going to have it easy, especially when you have really great teams. And I talked about national championship because I knew that we had the talent. It's just a matter if the chemistry was going to come along fast enough with what we had. We were as talented as anyone in the country last year. So trying to have those guys buy into culture, playing together. What was birthed from that was the #1 defensive opponent's defensive field goal percentage in the country with the youngest team in the country, which is kind of unusual. As well as I do, it takes heart, hustle, and know-how, and accountability, and responsibilities, and communication to be a great defensive team. And we were a really good defensive team. We were #1. Offensively, we struggled a little bit because we turned the ball over too much, really being too unselfish at times. But I was really excited about the team because we had a ton of talent. It was just a matter of staying healthy and being lucky enough to,
How was that for you, man? Like, all the nonsense in NCAA last year with James and that thing, and then like to see you at the draft with him and his family, I know that meant more to you, seeing what you guys had to deal with all the nonsense and things like that. So what was Wednesday like for you, being at the draft with one of your guys you had forever for years, like kind of helping him develop his game, and kind of how was that feeling for you?
It was a great feeling, man, because it didn't end well for us at Memphis with James. It was truly an innocent situation that was taken with James, me and James's mother, when I was a high school coach, that turned into something very negative that James had nothing to do with. Obviously, I wasn't trying to hide anything because I felt like I didn't do anything wrong. And it just turned very negatively. And that's unfortunate for the fans. It's unfortunate for our fans. It's unfortunate for our team, our school, that James got 12 games and didn't get a chance to play for the rest of the season with us and had to leave early. But we stayed in touch. When James first came to Memphis from Nashville, put a lot of work and a lot of hours in with him, man. He was determined to be the best, and it wasn't easy. There were a lot of nights that he left the gym crying. Crying, and his mother was like, coming home crying, but I told him, you got to stick with it. So to be there on Wednesday with him and his family during that moment, to know what he's gone through from childhood all the way up until now, and to have to deal with all the scrutiny in front of the country last year, it was an unbelievable feeling, man, because he deserves everything that he's getting.
Oh, definitely. So how do you see James and Precious fitting in with their teams? I personally think they probably went to the best destination they possibly could with their style of play. What's your take on him going to Golden State and Precious going to Miami?
Yeah, first on James going to Golden State, it's like a dream come true for a big man like James. He's mobile. Yeah. He's athletic. You're going to play with a team that should have won 5 championships in a row or 4 championships in a row. They won 3 in a row, and then they, obviously lost or whatever. But just to be able to be in that championship atmosphere, that culture, being around veteran players like Steph, Clay, hurry up and get well to Clay, man. That's just unbelievable. I was crushed. That was kind of like the downer of the draft to hear about him having a lower leg injury. But to be around Draymond, the guy that understands the game, high IQ, and they're going to take him under their wing, and he's going to fly from there, man. He's going to be great in that system. As far as Precious, the same thing. I played for the Miami Heat. They drafted who they knew that they needed, and he needed them as well because he believes in that culture. He believes in playing hard, playing with a chip on the shoulder, with that nastiness that Coach Riley and Coach Spo loves to see their players play with. He brings all of that to the table, man. So I was really excited for him as well because when he first came into Memphis, he wasn't on any draft boards or he wasn't in the first round. And, man, he worked his way all the way up to the top. And to see him get drafted, man, was truly an exciting night for me, for him and James.
Definitely. So let's talk about a little bit about your team this year. You know, what guys kind of stood out to you in the preseason so far? You know, your expectations of the season as they go on. Like, what's your expectations for the team and things like that?
Well, you know, it's so weird because a lot of the guys came back with different attitudes because I felt like they put a lot of pressure on themselves last year. So I see a relaxed bunch from the pressure of trying to get to the league so fast and a more of a focused bunch on trying to win and do what it takes for us to win. And that's what I see the most out of this group. Obviously, I hadn't seen Landers and I hadn't seen DeAndre in person. I recruited those guys over Zoom. They trusted that I could do what I said I was going to do, and they came to our team and was really pleased with those two guys and what they bring to the table, man. They are veteran guys. They bring it, and they raise the intensity of practice up every single day for the young guys and teaching them the way that you're supposed to approach practice just like you're supposed to approach the game. And as far as our young guys from last year, Boogie, DJ Jeffries, Damian Baugh, those guys, they're really locked in on coming in and showing the world that they can do what they were set out to do. And, you know, on a daily basis, they're being pushed. They're pushing each other. Alex Lomax, you talk about Lomax, he's had some very dominant defensive practices. You know how that works, man. You're a defensive guy. You're a lockup guy. He just, man, controls the game on the defensive side, and that's great to see because a lot of guards can't do that. And then Damian Baugh, you know, he's definitely stretching it out to three now. A lot of teams left him last year and dared him to shoot, went under on the screens, and he's taking that personally. So Lester Canonius is the same way. He's a guy that didn't really shoot it as well as we know he could. He's in the gym all day. He's being more of a leader. He's just a guy, man, that does everything for us, kind of like what you did for your squad, and just proud to see all of these young guys, you know, grow. And then Musa Cisse is coming in, not ever seeing any of this in his life. And every day you can just see him growing. He's one of the best, if not the best defensive big man in the country as far as block shots and rebounding. And offensively, he's growing every day. So I'm really excited because we got older and the guys kind of understand how to calm themselves down and get locked in on the same goal for sure.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited, man. I'm excited for next week. I was already talking to some of my boys about we're going to beat up on Ohio State. But since St. Mary's stepped in, St. Mary's going to catch the whooping, man. I got in your time playing in Memphis, before you got to Memphis, watching my teams play, a little bit after that as well. Can you name your toughest Memphis Tiger you ever seen play?
The toughest Tiger that I've ever seen play?
Yeah.
Man, let me think about this. You're definitely there. Because, I mean, the way you guarded, how tough you played, the little stuff that you did. Man, you reminded me of Corey Beck. I played with Corey Beck. He was a national champion in 1996 with the Arkansas Razorbacks. You guys had similar games, man. Like, you guys did whatever it took to win. Like, if Cal needed to put you on the other team's best scorer, the point guard, the three, whatever. So, if I'm talking about tough players, man, I'm not saying this by being biased, man, but you're one of my favorite players because of the way that you approach the game. You didn't need the ball to affect the game. You were willing to do whatever it took to just win the basketball game, man. And that's why the chemistry was so well. And Rob was the same way. You were the same way. And then CDR did his thing. Derek did his thing. Joey did his thing. So, and then Dre Allen, who we really missed in the NCAA championship game in that Final Four, he was a guy that just came off the bench and understood. So, yeah, man, if I'm talking about tough guys, you and Dre Allen are up there pretty good.
Your freshman year, you sat out at Memphis. What was the incident? You getting shot? Talk to us about that a little bit.
No, it was really weird because I was a Prop 48 and I was sitting out and I was trying to find avenues to stay in shape. So every Sunday, this area gym in my old neighborhood would be open and we would go over and have some really intense basketball games. So that night we went to play. It was a Sunday night and it was me, my cousin, and another friend. We left the gym, went into the neighborhood, dropped my cousin off at home, and we were headed back to the University of Memphis campus for me to go back. Cousin phones me and said, hey, man, you know what? I left my wallet in the back of the vehicle. It must have fell out of my bag. I need it because my mom wants me to go to the store. I got to drive, and my license is in there. So I said, cool. So we turn around, and, man, I can't even make this up. This is like a movie. We park in front of my aunt's house, and then all of a sudden this car creeps by us, and I'm noticing the car. Not really, I'm naive. It drove down the road, and I could see down this road. It went about 3 homes down, turned around, came back, and went right past us. Me and my friend are talking casually. We're not even thinking this car is even like sitting there like being predators and waiting on us to get out. So I'm turning to talk to him, and I see headlights, and I look back. It's the same car. Comes by us again, makes a left on the same street, turns around in the same driveway that it did the first time, and it still hasn't clicked. Now, I call myself like a guy that's aware, that has some really good awareness. The car comes back past us, and by this time, I'm trying to call my cousin to tell him to come outside to get the wallet. He doesn't answer the phone, so now we get out of the car, slam the doors to open the hatch up to get the wallet to take it inside, and all of a sudden we hear the brakes screech. I look up, it's the same exact car. Now I reenact it in my mind like a movie going backwards. Go back to them passing us, go back to them making the left, go back to them making the turn around in the third driveway and passing us. And then I went, it was an oh shit moment. Honestly, it was. I was like, they're about to do something. So he rolls down the window, and I looked in there, and it seemed like 6 guys were in this car. Now my heart is racing. I'm like, this is not good. And then he asked my friend, can you tell me how to get to Bartlett? And Bartlett is one of the richer neighborhoods, which is like 30 minutes away from us. And when he said that, I knew what was about to happen. As soon as my friend started explaining, because he could feel it too, they jumped out of the car. They had their hats down low, and they put the gun to my head. I didn't even look at them, and they just fell to the ground. So they robbed us, robbed the truck, hopped in the car, and then drove down the street. Got about 100 feet away. And I guess they thought about that they should have killed us because they didn't know if we saw their faces. So they started shooting back to where we were. And the first initial shots that rang out, I ducked behind the car. And then something told me to jump into the car because the hatch was up. And right before I jumped into the hatch, man, I got hit in the foot. So the bullet ricocheted off the ground and hit me in the foot. And then when I jumped up, I was like, I got hit. He was like, where? You're lying. My friend, I was like, no, I got hit in the foot. And when I looked at the side of my shoe, it was like a little hole. And then when I took my shoe off, it was like a blood stain now. And the bullet was lodged in my foot, and it didn't come out of the other side. And by this time, now my cousin comes out. My aunt comes out because he goes and knocks on the door. They call the ambulance, and then I get to the hospital. Obviously, we're still in the movie because the stuff, the word that I get from the doctor where the bullet is lodged right under my foot in there, it went through the small toe and then broke all of these bones and then lodged between the big toe and the second toe that I probably wouldn't be able to play basketball again for the way that the bullet hit my foot. So now I'm in the hospital going, you have got to be kidding me. Like I'm thinking about my cousin not coming out. I'm reenacting the guys driving by. And I'm like, you have got to be kidding me that I didn't recognize that. And luckily, maybe 2 or 3 months later, the bullet actually moved out and got into the web of my big toe and my second toe. And I had to go have surgery. They put me on my stomach, hung my foot off the end, and then they went in there and surgically just cut it, took the bullet out, and then sewed it back up, and then gave me the bullet inside like a little clear deal or whatever, to a necklace or whatever, and was like, this is the bullet. I'm like, dude, that is crazy. And then I just got well, and then it went from there.
Oh, damn, that's crazy. That got to be traumatized, especially as a freshman in college.
Man, and so here it is. The next year, we had the Southern Heritage Classic. That was Tennessee State. The very next year, around the same time, football season is just starting. Before football season starts, maybe the first week of college football, Tennessee State is playing Jackson State University in our Liberty Bowl Stadium. Myself and David Vaughn, who were the stars of the team, we're going to the game, and we parked kind of in the neighborhood of the Liberty Bowl. Not a great neighborhood, not too bad, but not really great. And we're walking, and some guys pass by us and they start slowing down, but a car comes behind them and makes them turn. So I told David, I said, David, that doesn't look good. It doesn't look good, man. Let's jog back to the car, get in the car, let the seats back, and let's see if they're going to make the turn. Man, 10 minutes later, that car had made the block and came back looking for us. I learned my lesson from the first time, but I was like, wow, man, what kind of luck do I have? But honestly, it was just how it was back then, I guess, but we survived it. And those were the only 2 times that I've had those situations, but it was a blessing, man, to be able to get away without being killed initially from the first robbers, and then being smart enough to recognize the second time around that things happen.
Oh, no, definitely, man. I agree. I've never been in that situation ever in my life, but I can only imagine after the first time, every time a car drove by, that next time around, you got to keep looking, no matter what kind of car it was.
No doubt about it, man. For sure.
Now, yeah, another thing, too, is like I remember we were talking about Thomas Tiger. Like, what was it like for you watching my years with my group of guys like Dre and some of the guys from Memphis that you know very well, mixed in with some of those guys from out of town? What was it like watching for yourself, like being back home before you still thinking about like getting into coaching and things like that? What was that like? How happy were you like to see the University of Memphis like making some noise?
Man, well, first of all, your alma mater, man. You're always bragging on your alma mater when you're in the league. You're always making bets when you play someone else's team that's on your NBA team, you play their college team, the bet is always on, man. So we're always bragging. So that year I had bragging rights over everybody because you guys were kicking butt. And, just a proud moment for me. And then I ended up being released by the Miami Heat. At that time, I went on that run with you guys. I think I finished up the last few games of the season. And then we went to Little Rock to play against Mississippi State. And then we went to Houston and then San Antonio. So I went to every road game along the way with you guys the whole ride through the Final Four in San Antonio. And, man, it was really an unreal run, man, just looking at the talent that we had. You boys are like rock stars in the city, way bigger than the Grizzlies. And it was just a magical moment, man. It was just Cal had did such an unbelievable job recruiting you guys and getting you guys to that level. And like I said, just the beauty of how you guys played was something that I enjoy watching because I'm just a true basketball fan and a fan of, you guys' team. Like I said, we had the local guys that were on the team. They carried their weight. And then, of course, you guys came in, man, and we made you guys feel at home and feel like family. And we'll always be indebted for you guys coming to the University of Memphis.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you a funny story, man. So everyone know we lost to Kansas on my shot, what have you. So every time I'm home, I get back home and I'm talking to my mom and my brothers. And my mom is just like, oh, you know what? You guys will be okay. And I wasn't even mad that you guys lost because I got to see Penny Hardaway at the game. And I'm like, oh.
That's hilarious.
She's like, I'm just saying, so it's so crazy that, the impact you have on people outside of Memphis as well. It's so dope. I got a trivia question for you. Memphis history. Outside of yourself, who else in Memphis history got a triple-double?
I think you are the only one that had a triple-double. I think you got a triple-double.
Yeah.
I think I remember that. I was like, but that's how your game was, man. You were
I tell people all the time. I'm like, outside of Penny, I'm number 2, man. I don't want to do what he did in the history, man.
But they need to look at those films, man. They need to see why. That was dope. Dope. That's hard to do in college, man. You got to really be scrapping, man.
What's it like though, man? Like, so now you've been in Memphis a couple of years, guys going to the league, guys being successful, not just going to the NBA, but as a team, what is the way you carry you guys and your staff, like recruiting wise, knowing, look, Kentucky, Duke, and North Carolina, these dudes aren't the only dudes that can go get these top guys. I can get them here to Memphis too. Like me driving by the campus now, seeing how nice it is and the facility you guys have is top tier, better than most colleges, most NBA teams. Like how do you go into the recruiting knowing, look, these guys are going to come to Memphis?
Yeah, well, first of all, man, it was I found myself having a dream team staff of coaches. Mike Miller before he left, myself, Cody Toppert, Sam Mitchell, who was the NBA Coach of the Year, At one point, he coached at Memphis for 1 year. Tony Matlock, who's been in college basketball for 20 plus years. I feel like we had a dream team of coaches, man. And I had mostly NBA guys because I wanted to sell to the kids that we could develop you, we could teach you, and then to have the facilities to back it up. You know, that's just extra. When you show the kids that facility, when you talk about streaming and being developed and being taught how to play the game, film sessions on understanding what's what, it kind of sells itself, man, because I played the game. They know I played the game at a high level. And most of those kids want to play for a coach that has played the game and that can teach them, that can still get out on the court and teach them. And that's what we offer at Memphis.
And it's crazy because, you know, watching you guys play, a lot of the guards that, you know, you guys have at the University of Memphis, like guards who kind of the 6'5", 6'6", athletic and pass it, can shoot it, kind of versatile, can kind of do everything. Watching you guys play, switching everything, and just being aggressive defensively. Yeah. Like when you go to practice, what is the things that you are kind of talking to these guys about? Because watching you guys defend last year as freshmen, outside of Alex and Tyler, like everyone else can cover 5 positions.
Yeah.
So, like, does that make things easier for you, knowing like I have Preston and James, they can go cover one. They can, you know, switching wasn't a problem. So, like, does that make the defensive schemes easier, or do you just base it off of who you're going against?
You know what? It's my NBA past. It is, we do base defense every day. I'm more of a defensive coach, meaning defense wins championships. And I'm big on communication. I'm big on the defensive side of the ball, even though I know offense like the back of my hand. But Cody Toppert is an offensive genius. So was Mike Miller when he was there. They understand offense. We all do, because Mike and I played at the highest level. But, I mean, the way that I approach practice is from a defensive mentality that we're going to stop people. That's going to give us the opportunity to box out, rebound, and run. We don't ever want to set up. We want to get out and run, man. We want to play fast. We want to be the best defensive team in the country and then the fastest team on offense. And usually it doesn't match like that, because you're usually your better defensive teams are the teams that slow it down, Virginia, Texas Tech, and those guys. But to have a fast pace and be a good defensive team, that's what I want. So we work on the shell every single day. I learned that from Coach Larry Brown. The shell defense is your base defense. You're going to stop people in the shell. Transition defense is number 2, because you got to get back. You got to stop it so you can set your shell. And then after that, it's boxing out so we can get the ball, so we can get out of there and try to shoot the ball within the first 10 seconds of the clock, because we want to play fast. And that's what I've lived by. That's what I was taught. I played for Mike D'Antoni in Phoenix, right when the birth of those Phoenix teams started to get really good with Amari Stoudemire, Joe Johnson, Sean Marion. And then when I got traded, Steve Nash came in and turned that team, took it to another level with Quentin Richardson and all those guys. So I think that my philosophies come from the coaches that have touched me the most, especially in the NBA. And to answer your question, we scheme a lot of things too. You know, we mix it up. We don't just play one base defense. We'll mix it up to cater to how we want to play a certain team's talent. You know, their roster. Their roster is they're gonna tell us how we're gonna play them instead of having a set base defense. And it works. It has worked well for me.
Yeah, and I think you're right, man. I think, you know, like playing for a coach who played in the league for such a long time kind of makes things easier. You know, I think you're able to give probably guys the right advice when it's time to leave, when it may not be time to leave. And it's not that you're trying to keep them there, but you've been there. So, you know, knowing what it takes to be there and be in the league for such a long time is definitely valuable. And, you know, I think the guys that you had in it gone, you knew it was time. Everyone knew it was time. You know, they go about their way. So is that like something, you know, everyone looks at the one and done and things like that. You're recruiting to win championships, and, you know, guys come. What's it like now getting guys to transfer from ACC and from Evansville and things like that? How do you incorporate them into the kids that you had last year, the kids that played valuable minutes? They have to buy in. Obviously, you wouldn't take them if they weren't going to buy in. How's that transition like, taking these big-time recruits and meshing them with the guys that you already have?
Yeah, I think that you know, as far as your base guys who aren't going to be one and done, you recruit specifically those guys. Those should be your energy guys. Those should be your tough guys. That should be the core. Those are going to be the guys that are going to do all the dirty work most of the time, because they're not as offensively gifted as the guys, the 5-stars are. The 5-stars are 5-stars usually because of offense. So when you do that and you start meshing talent, when you have to go out and get another guy, like we went out and got Landers Nolly, and we already had Lester Quinones, and we had DJ Jeffries. Well, you had a high major basketball team or university that wants to win a national championship. You got to know we're going to always try to go get better. And the way we teach our guys to work on their games, we spend more time working on our guys' games, their own individual game, than we do the plays. We have everybody buy in, man, and we go, hey, man, you gotta sink or swim. You gotta bring it. You're gonna be challenged every single day to be the best that you can be, or else somebody's gonna beat you out. And to me, that keeps the edge into the practice, so that guys won't get complacent. Guys won't just sit back and just feel like this is just my team. I don't have to do anything. And I don't try to feel like I'm over recruiting anybody. I'm just recruiting good players that I feel like can mesh with one another. And it's been working out, man. And the guys, they really like playing with each other. They enjoy being around one another. They're off the court hanging together. So it seems like we've been blessed enough to do a good job of meshing the personalities together to be able to want to work together.
We're gonna go back a little bit. Your rookie year in the league, they had you wearing those pink book bags and doing all those crazy things too. How was that?
Man, we had to do everything, man. We had to sing the fight song. We had to sing happy birthday to the veterans when it was their birthday. We had to get donuts in the morning. We had to bring the paper to the vets, coffee. They throw all the balls in the stands after shoot around was over, and we had to go in the stands and grab all the balls and bring them back down to the rack. It's all a part of it, man. It's part of the fraternity. I was never a guy, because I was drafted really high, to buck the system. Everybody had to go through. I think everybody had to go through except for Shaq. I don't think the Orlando Magic made Shaq as a rookie do all the stuff that they made us do. And I did it with a smile, man, because just to be there and to be a part of that fraternity, you definitely have to go through that for sure.
If you have to say, it doesn't have to be based off talent. You have one NBA teammate that you play with that you love playing with, just you're always reliable. It's not about skill or talent, NBA All-Star, none of that caliber. If you could pick one teammate to say, I'm going to go to work with this guy, and we were to play tomorrow 2-on-2 against Jordan and Pippen, who you taking?
Bo Outlaw. Really, this dude, man, truly incredible. Got the most out of his game than I've ever seen anybody in the league. Just pure energy. This guy lifted weights every single day. He didn't take a day off. Every year that he was in the league, he lifted weights, man. He is running all over that court, high energy from start to finish. He's going to play his man, your man, block the shot, rebound, be the first one down the court to dunk it, and then start over and repeat. I've never seen anybody play at this level, this intensity for an entire game like this guy, man. He was built different, and that's the truth. And you wouldn't even hear guys talk about Bo Outlaw, but the guys that competed against him, Bo was special, man, when it came to energy and athleticism.
So how was that? Correct me if I'm wrong. The year, I think before you were going into the draft the year before, how would you guys win up against the USA team, that 92 USA team? Yeah. What was that experience like going against those guys before you actually got to compete against them in the league?
Well, first of all, being chosen to that select team to go and practice in La Jolla, California with the dream team was, come on, man, that's just crazy. Walking into the lobby of the hotel and getting checked in, and then going to the meeting room, and then walking in and seeing Larry Bird, Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, David Robinson, Charles Barkley, John Stockton. You see all these guys, and you're like, wow, Scottie Pippen. You're like, man, this is incredible. But my thing was, when I went back to my room, I was like, man, I got to show these guys that I belong. I mean, honestly, that was my mentality. I got to show these guys that I belong. And the next day in practice, we got on them, man. They did not respect us. They played us really weak. And, man, we came out on fire, man. I just remember, myself, Grant Hill, Bobby Hurley, Rodney Rogers, Jamal Mashburn. We had a really good group of players, Allen Houston, that could really play. And we got their attention that first day.
So when you leave there, what's your mindset when you get back home? You get in that gym, was you just working your tail off? I know your goals were to get to the NBA. I know your goals were to get to the NBA, but what was it like knowing I just competed against the top 12 players in the world, and who they go down as probably the greatest USA team ever? What was that like? When you're in the gym preparing, what was it like when you got to suit up for the USA team?
When I left La Jolla and came back to Memphis, I was on cloud 9. There was nobody that was going to be able to stay in front of me. that was going to stop me. I just played against the greatest of all time, like in a group, in a practice setting. I came back and I just started dominating. My mentality went to the next level. I got hungrier. I wanted it more. And, man, that just took me to the next level from that point on. And then being able to be in the 96 Olympics, man, for it to come full circle and be a part of that 4 years later and to be on that team, man, it was just a dream come true. And it to be in the state. I wanted it to be in the States. It wasn't overseas. It was in Atlanta. And I got a chance to really enjoy it with my family, with my friends, and really take it all in because it was in Atlanta, Georgia.
Hey, Penny, man, I want to thank you, man. I appreciate it. I wish you guys the best of luck this year. You know I'm always going to be rooting for you guys. See, I'll be watching next week, screaming at the TV. So good luck, man. Thank you.
No, I appreciate it, man. You know, I'm always been a fan of you, your game, your teams, man. You guys are the greatest, to me, team in history to come through here, man, because of the way y'all rock it. And we have some great teams here. So you're always going to be a Memphian to us, man, even though you're from Mass. We love you, man, and just continue to keep representing, man. You're doing a great job down there with the kids, and just keep rocking.